Michael DiMartino's great to have you back. And joining us this evening for the first time is Professor Alan Tratner. Welcome to Cafecito Break. How are you this evening, gentlemen?
Aloha from the Pacific in Hawaii, in Lahaina, where climate driven disasters, everybody know, happened a year ago, incineration of the city. But we're all ready to talk.
Great, and I'm glad to be here again. This is our second time with you, and I just again always like to bring conscious content to people like yourself who are doing amazing independent media to bring these stories and this information forward. I'm in the Rocky Mountains, and it's windy and actually very cool and raining, but and you're in New York City, so we have a trifecta going here.
quite quite amazing energy points. Right before we started this conversation, family, I was sharing with Professor Tratner that the closest I've been to Lahaina is Kauai. And growing up and living in New York City, there's such a masculine energy here, right? And when I experienced the energy in Kauai, I was able to actually have some downtime. I did go there for work, but I was able to experience some of the sites that the locals showed us and hear some of the lores and stories and traditions, and also feel into the energy of the island. And it was very mysterious. It felt very feminine. It felt like I was only beginning to learn more about the mysteries of this universe. And it left quite an impression on me. It saddens me to hear the reminder, Professor, that we're a year into the tragic events of Lahaina, and we that's something in the United States that some people still report on, but it doesn't really get covered. I'm wondering if if please, if you could introduce yourself to our audience, and if you could share some more.
Sure. Rose Angel, I've learned that I should be calling you that, and I'm delighted to do so. I'm Professor Alan Tratner. I was involved, and I'm very rightly so proud of this, in the founding of the original Earth Day in 1970. And at that same time, we created this global impact pioneering incubator called Green to Gold for inventing a green future and a sustainable green economy. And that's what we're all about. We have 100,000 members that are inventor, entrepreneurs, innovators, small businesses, scientists, researchers, engineers. But we also do something very novel. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we actually incubate nonprofits, more than 300 to date, that are socially and environmentally responsible. And the reason we were on Maui and in Lahaina, there are multiple reasons, but we wanted to create a global center here for sustainability, a transition to sustainability, the green economy that's inclusive, that embraces indigenous and native cultures and wisdom, but all the new technology that we have developed in our Green to Gold incubator worldwide, and the methodologies and systems. In fact, I met Michael because we actually helped him create his for-profit and his nonprofit foundation, and he's been under our fiscal umbrella all this time. And he was kind of impacted by the COVID situation, of course, in his attempt to create an Earthstock festival, which was the original concept. And now we're producing this global, driven by a lot of our media, Regen Media and everything, this wonderful summit coming up uh, across the continents of the planet for Earthstock Summit. But we got caught up in the actual, we were just wind damage, but not fire damage. Thank you. And we basically got caught up in the terrible disaster. Climate driven, the very thing we were here to do is to mitigate and prevent and be resilient and give them 100% food security and renewable energy and sustainability, and clean up their water and fix the problems. But it happened to be that glance of a climate driven hurricane, and the fire, the ferocious winds like a torch, burned that whole city to it. Went, the next morning was the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. It looked like Lahaina was, in fact, Nagasaki or Hiroshima. It was all black and white and smoke and smoldering, and everything was destroyed, and right down to the ocean and into the boats of the ocean, as everybody saw around the world. We didn't see it happened as the rest of the world was watching on the news. We were in it and had no power and no communications and no, phones weren't working, nothing. We had no water, no food, and no energy. And it was pretty interesting to be in the disaster centers at that time. And I've been through two California earthquakes, including the big Northridge one that completely split open my home and destroyed it, but we had insurance and rebuilt it. But nothing I've never seen or experienced. And I've been to Sudan, where they wanted us to do a green to gold incubator. That's a civil war in Africa. And that was sad, but nothing like what happened here. The best thing I can say to finish that up, and I know you asked me earlier about the aftermath. This is the 1 year anniversary of that terrible disaster, loss of 102 people and tens of thousands of buildings, thousands of vehicles, schools, homes, just horrible stuff. The recovery's been bad. But the best analogy I told the media about is that, everybody I think in the world has seen Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz. And you remember at the beginning, it's black and white when they're on the farm. And then all of a sudden you get to The Wizard of Oz, the nation, the place, and it's all beautiful color. Well, we had the opposite. We had the beauty of paradise and the color and the birds singing and everything else. And as you moved toward Lahaina, it turned into this black and white and gray situation that was sad. And the smell and the smoke was horrific. And that's the best analogy I've been able to make. It's just like going from from color into black and white. And it was terrible for a long time. And we haven't recovered. The economy has been decimated. The people have a great spirit, as you have learned. But it was just tragic. And what we're doing with the Earthstock Summit is part of that thing I mentioned to you earlier when we were talking about Build Back Green that came out of Michael and I created this event that was only a few weeks after the Lahaina disaster about solutions for this and people donating and giving gifts and everything. And by the way, Michael, the banyan tree that you brought, that individual that brought thousands of gallons of this great organic tea-based fertilizer to try to revive this couple hundred year old famous tree in Lahaina that was burned, and they've revived it, starting to actually grow new branches and everything. It's a great symbol for us this time.
It's regeneration.
And it was pretty terrific. But then what happened, it took on its own life, Build Back Green, because Acapulco in Mexico got hit by that historically unknown hurricane that caused all that destruction. And it's happening everywhere, these kinds of climate-driven disasters. And we're trying to be the solutionaries, as Michael calls them, to bring the actual true solutions, technological, methodological, all that to these situations. We have the resources. It's not that we don't know how to repair this, fix it, make situations sustainable, resilient, and cause green economies for good green jobs everywhere, local green economies. It's just that the politics and the way people make decisions and the investments in the fossil fuel industry and all that kind of stuff, the vested interests have been in the way. And I think that's all changing. People are awakening to that.
And what's interesting, I would say, as horrific as it was, making lemonade out of lemons, or a symbolic phoenix rising or regenerating from the ashes. I actually live in Northern California. We suffered the Paradise Fire. And also right now they have the 500,000 acre park fire. So